Hey everybody, Oliver Joyce from Whiskeybarrel Studios here. Welcome to another video. The content on this channel, I'm afraid, has been a bit lean of late, and I do apologize for that, with Games Gladiator being finished up sort of late last year and not starting again until sometime later this year, and of course Spartacus being wrapped up. I haven't had that much to show you. And with Crusader starting maybe about 3 weeks ago, there isn't much to show from that. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about how the project's going, and also show you the beginnings of the new Brandor map, which I think fans of the series might be quite interested in. So let's have a coffee and get stuck in. Oh yeah, new mug. This is my cockatoo mug. It's a sulfur-crested cockatoo, which is an Australian bird. Makes a really loud noise when they fly past. Like sounds like a bombing raid. Literally does. But they're beautiful birds. That's not what the video, of course, is about. What I wanted to talk to you today is, of course, about progress for the game, as I mentioned. We're about three weeks into development, and I have the logo, as has been revealed before, and all the character art, which I'm going to show you a bit later. I've got all the main menu stuff, and I've got most of the pause game screens and shop and sort of army management screens are built, but they're not very exciting, so I'm not going to show you them. What I wanted to show you, though, was what I've been working on the last few days, the map of Brandor. I've been using a map making program called WonderDraft to start putting this together, and of course mixing it up with my own sort of Photoshop skills, I'm able to sort of craft a new and improved version of the old map, because the old map was really only 640 by 480 pixels. It was really small. The new one is let's see, yeah, it's 4 times as big as that, which means we'll have to scroll around this map. Let's jump over to Photoshop now, and I will show you what I mean. Here we go. Here is the map of Brandor. The original map pretty much contained, was basically this section here, was that. Now we have all this extra area, still the same amount of provinces, but as the lore for the game has changed and gotten bigger, and I've sort of retconned a few things, I've had to change how the actual continent looks. And never seen before is this up here. This is sort of the Arctic area of the game. You can see the sort of various islands and icebergs and so on. This is North Brandor, and there's nothing above that. That's just basically the north of the world. To the south, however, the deserts of Taj Brandir and Eldor Hath. And most importantly here, we have a land bridge from Brandor into Eldor Hath, and that will play a big part in future games. It's almost like the hot gates at Thermopylae for those who know 300, and Spartans versus Persians. Another important part of the world map, which I haven't revealed to you before, is this here, this lake. Now, what you don't see, but what will appear here in the final version, is this little island here. And this is, in fact, where the Constellation Mirror sits, right there. This is the lake of the Constellation Mirror, and the Constellation Mirror is the most important thing in all Brandor. It's pretty much where everyone who's come to this world has come from. Little mirror, the space mirror in the middle of an island, in the middle of a huge lake, and every 50 years it opens and new creatures come through. For the purposes of Crusader, it doesn't have any point, but in future RPGs using the Brandor world, you'll notice a lot more about it. What else? Let's jump over to Adobe Animate, formerly known as Flash, because that's what we're making this in. When I say Flash, it's like a super accelerated version of Flash that I use to make the Steam versions and the mobile versions of the game. It's much faster than Flash ever was, but it behaves very similarly. So here we are in Flash with a version of the map. You can see here, there are all the little borders for the various provinces and so on, and the names of them. This won't appear in the final game as far as the names, but the borders will. I've changed the borders somewhat from the first game. As we move across here, some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. This huge lake here you might recognize from Sword and Sandals 5. Saul's Gateway there, a huge lake that goes around, actually provides a natural boundary for these areas here. I can't remember what that lake's called. I've got it written down somewhere. Eternia no longer has a way to get anywhere else. There's Phaetor is a bit bigger. There's Edengarth, which now borders Shackleford and so on. There are little things that, if you've played a lot of Crusader, you'll probably notice some differences. If not, that won't matter. But what I've tried to do with this map is just make it a little bit more interesting for players. Braxis is over there as a big one, big player in the game. Drakendir is small but strategically important and borders quite a lot of areas. Eldor Hath down here. Eldor Hath is actually a continent. That's all most people in Brandor know about Eldor Hath is. It's the Darklands to the southeast and connected by the land bridge from Dankheart here, which we mentioned. That's where Emperor Antares starts his campaign. And this is a shadowed, mysterious land that nobody really knows much about. Over to the west, we have the Badlands, which go down to the Akash Steppes, and Pilthia over here, with the Cycladians live. They're not in this game, but that's where they live. Taj Brandir is, of course, home to Arglax and the Beast Force. They're actually they've taken over the area because it actually belongs to desert people that have been forced into exodus down here in the Takash Desert. That'll all appear in the Tome of Lore and stuff like that. This map you see here, it's pretty much only a color map right now. There's the full desert. There's sort of like steppe country and marshlands, fields, forests, up to tundra and so on. What I'm going to be adding is more of a proper mountains and trees and so on. It'll look a little bit more like a colorized version of like the Lord of the Rings map, which for many people who are familiar with it, see this? That's the sort of, hang on, what I'll do so you can see it properly. Like that. See all those trees and mountains and that kind of thing. To get a bit of focus. That's what I want to put in the game. So it'll kind of look a bit more like that. Hopefully you guys like it. So far, I'm really happy with the map has come out. I've got to refine it a lot and add all those little details. Still looks a little bit rough, but that will be coming in the next sort of month or so as I sort of draw more of it. I've actually got all the characters on the map now. They don't move around yet. There used to be these little circular tokens with the picture of the character's face. Now they're actually the mounts from the game. So if you're on Belgrave or Lionel or Wolfgang, you'll be on a horse. If you're on using Selen Helmguard, you'll be on a bear. If you're on Antares, you'll be on like an undead nightmare, which is a kind of horse, and so on. And I find this kind of personalizes it a little bit more. And because the provinces are so much bigger, it allows me to actually have these characters on horseback. And when you click on them there, they ride down to the next province. And that's pretty cool. It's still very much a work in progress, so I'm not going to show you any of that right now. But what else can I tell you about the game? The game, of course, uses gold, and I'm probably going to use materials as a blanket term. Not, wood, stone, all that sort of stuff, just materials. And materials are a secondary resource that you gather from provinces in the same way that you would mine gold in the first game. You also can gather resources, and that can take a turn. Each area has a finite amount of resources, so you basically have to find out which provinces have more, which have less. You use resources to build your castles, to defend your provinces, and garrisons, which are also used to defend your provinces but don't hold as many troops. You also use them to build catapults and summon the Colossus. Previously it was only gold that did that, but now you also need materials. That's at this stage. That might change. Started working on bringing on the stories for the game. thank you again to everybody that wrote stories. Much appreciated. There's some really cool ones in there, as I read out in the last video. It's really just awesome to have all these cool new stories. There's going to be at least 50, maybe even 100 in this game, which is pretty phenomenal. And they will appear sort of randomly as you go from province to province, the beginning of a turn. Much like in Swords and Sandals 2 at the beginning of a day or something like that, you might get like a random story. In the last video, I wasn't sure whether these stories would have only one outcome or multiple. They now support multiple outcomes, but they don't have to have that. Many stories will only have one outcome, which just is sort of like gain gold, gain troops, lose troops, etc. Some of the ones that you've come up with have multiple outcomes, and I've been able to put them in the game. They're only ever one or the other. It's not like if you choose one option, you get a good or a bad outcome. It's basically you choose this is what happens every time that scenario comes up. But because there's so many scenarios, you won't sort of get that many repeats. I think that'll add a lot of flavor to the game, and I'm looking forward to putting that in. Also, what will be in the game and what I'm working on in the next few weeks is little, I guess in Pirates I called them flotsam, which were little sort of chests and unique items that would appear in the water. They'll now appear on the tiles of the provinces, and once they're there until one of the lords moves to that province. Then they get that thing. And that might be just a bag of gold, a chest of gold. It might be a extra soldier. It might be something bad. Who knows? But those things are just kind of almost like little question mark boxes. That's what they would be. And that adds a little bit of extra strategic play to the game. And finally, and I don't know if I should even mention this, because I don't know if I'll put it in for sure, but I want to have monsters in the game. And monsters are separate entities that roam around the board, and they move one province at a time. Sometimes they don't move, and they can attack you or they can ignore you. Things like the giant prime ape, he won't be one because he's actually a colossus, but there'll be a couple of giant monsters for your men to fight. And if you beat them, you get a large reward. So I think that'll be cool. That will go in if I have time to put it in. But these are all things that were in Pirates in the form of sea monsters and so on, and just things that I think might, add a lot to the game. For now, that's the update. And of course, keep your stories coming. I haven't put most of them in yet, so there's still time. Write them in the comments below on the other video, or here if you want. I'll see if I can collate them together. And until next time, my friends, I look forward to your feedback on what you think of Swords and Sandals Crusader Redux so far, what you think of the map. Are you enjoying the other games? Are you playing a bit of Spartacus, playing a bit of Classic Collection? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, bye for now.